Ladies and gentlemen, WWE Raw. We're about to hop into the review. About to hop into top takeaways. I have 12 takeaways from WWE Monday Night Raw. Feel free. The only thing I ask is that you please hit a like on this video if you're a real true blue wrestling fan. So we're gonna hop right on into it. I'm gonna get to my overall takeaway at the end. Man, this Raw was something, man. But gonna hop right on into it. First takeaway I have is beat the clock for what? Look, Ronda Rousey came down to ringside. I talked about WrestleMania and she said the only thing she had to say was, "You're welcome." She dropped the mic and she did this weird thing to where she kept coming back to the mic. She talked about how she was gonna tap out Charlotte and Becky at the same time. And look, man, you can't drop the mic and pick it back up. Like, who told Ronda that was okay? Bad faux pas on WWE's part. It just didn't come off well. So Becky Lynch came out. She talked about Ronda Rousey and how nobody cared about Ronda Rousey until Becky Lynch came around. That's like totally false on Becky Lynch's part, but it is what it is. Charlotte came down as well. And we had ourselves a beat the clock challenge. Ronda Rousey tapped out Sarah Logan really fast. Ruby Riott survived Charlotte, and Becky Lynch destroyed Liv Morgan in under 1 minute and 25 seconds. That was the time that Ronda Rousey had, and Becky Lynch won the beat the clock challenge. Like, what was the point of this beat the clock challenge? The only point that it had was to make the Riot Squad look like idiots. And like, if you're gonna have a beat the clock challenge, you gotta put something on it. Like, the winner gets to choose a special stipulation for the match or something. You gotta have something on it, or unless you make all 6 ladies look like goofs. And that's what they did here. All 6 ladies, Riot Squad, Becky Lynch, Charlotte, and Ronda Rousey, they just look like idiots in this entire segment. So moving on. My next takeaway, my second takeaway, Balor and Lashley again. I was supposed to be Finn Balor versus Bobby Lashley and Lio Rush, but it turned out to be Lashley and Jinder Mahal. The crowd, I gotta say, this match was decent enough for the time that it got, and the crowd was heavily invested into it. And Finn Balor would actually go on to pick up the victory over Jinder Mahal. I gotta say that, however, I'm very disappointed because we're doing Finn Balor and Bobby Lashley again at WrestleMania. Like, I wanted something else for Finn Balor. I was actively rooting for Finn Balor to lose this match because I wanted something bigger for Finn Balor at WrestleMania. I was thinking along the lines of possibly Balor Undertaker. Like, that was a far out dream, but at least something bigger, because we've been doing Finn Balor and Lashley for like what feels like months now. And this was the prime time for both guys to go in a different direction. But it is what it is. Balor wins the match. My next takeaway is Elias at WrestleMania. Elias was in New York City, and I'm not going to go through all of the segments because they pretty much did nothing for me and nothing for anybody else. He was in New York City playing on Times Square, and it was announced that he would be the special guest musical performance at WrestleMania. I mean, they should have been thought of that before, but it is what it is. They're doing it now. And Elias did a bunch of segments on Times Square. You know, we had some random guys come up to him. Random guys stole all of his stuff besides his guitar on the final segment. I just did nothing for me at all, and I'm not interested. I was not interested in those segments. You know, Elias at WrestleMania, hopefully they took him seriously and he does something well. I don't think he should sing America the Beautiful, to be quite honest. That's just my opinion, but we'll see how it all turns out. My next takeaway is the Revival loses again. We had Aleister Black and Ricochet versus the Revival. And as soon as we got this match, I was like, oh man, again. Look, the match was good enough. And you know, when I do top takeaways, I don't go move by move by move because I know we've watched the match. I know you are here for my opinion, not for me to go down every single move. So I don't. Look, the match was really good. But I'm at a point to where I look at the Revival and I look at Aleister Black and Ricochet and I say that, man, I'm tired of it. We have seen this pairing for like months now. And it's kind of like the Finn Balor Bobby Lashley thing. Two talented workers, but I'm so tired of it because we have seen matches, title matches, non-title matches between these guys off and on for months now. And it's looking like this is going to be the WrestleMania tag team title match, which is more than likely going to be on the pre-show. We'll see about that. But I love me some Aleister Black, and I love me even more some Ricochet. But them as a tag team, I've always thought that they are taken away from each other when they're attacking, when they can be single stars. But them versus the Revival, they've done it so many times that I'm not interested in it anymore. And partly because the Revival keep losing non-title matches, it's hard to get invested in the guys as tag team champions when they keep losing time and time again. So moving on, Aleister Black and Ricochet actually picked up the victory here, excuse me, on that one. But it's looking like we're going to get that at WrestleMania. Moving on, we had Drew McIntyre. And my next takeaway is that Roman accepts. Drew McIntyre came down. He talked about Roman Reigns. He talked about how he single-handedly tore apart the Shield and how Roman doesn't need to accept because he doesn't need to put his family through stress again. So Roman Reigns came out. He said he accepts. He had the classic line that Joe says, "Never run your mouth about my wife and kids again." And that led to a big brouhaha, and it ended with Drew McIntyre leveling Roman Reigns with a low blow and a Claymore kick. So I've already stated on the podcast that Drew McIntyre needs to win this match. It would be a huge victory for him to defeat Roman Reigns. We'll see, however, how it all turns out. My next takeaway is that Nia and Tamina again, they interfere again. We had Sasha Banks versus Natalya, and look, I was dead set already ready to hate this match because normally when we get these singles matches and with the ladies, when there's not a world title feud at hand, they normally don't put any type of effort into it. But this one was different. Sasha Banks versus Natalya, I thought it was a decent enough match. The crowd was very much into it. Hometown girl Sasha Banks, she locked on the Banks statement and the crowd was going nuts. Natalya countered that with the sharpshooter. Crowd was going nuts for that. And eventually we had Tamina and Nia Jax come down and destroy everything. Beth Phoenix would fight them off and hit the glam slam on Tamina. And I gotta say that Beth Phoenix looks really good and in shape for an in-ring return. And I'm very much interested in her. I'm not interested in Nia and Tamina. Like, they lost. Why are they here? Like, go away. You lost. So I'm not interested into them whatsoever. Afterwards, Sasha and Bayley said that they would take on anyone for the title. So that should be interesting. So looking like we're going to get a multi-woman match for the women's tag team titles. Hopefully we get an NXT team in there as well. So moving on, my next takeaway is that Braun sucks. It is what it is, man. Braun, like I posted on Twitter at 2SweetPod. That's where I do my live tweeting at when it comes to Raw, SmackDown. Look, man, Braun was at one time considered to be the next top guy. Like, he was the man, close to being the man at one point, and now he is just a pathetic shell of his former self. And that's because WWE never went with the guy, but that's another story for another day. What we got was a moment of bliss. Braun was on a moment of bliss, and the SNL guys were on a moment of bliss. And I'm not going to even go through this segment because I know it depressed a bunch of wrestling fans as it did me. And it ended with the SNL guys being in the Andre Battle Royal. Braun wanted them in the Andre Battle Royal, and they will both be in the Andre Battle Royal. And you know something is gonna happen. So help me goodness. Like, if these guys win the Battle Royal, Like, oh my goodness. Or even if they somehow eliminate Braun, I'm gonna flip. Like, man, why? Why do we even need to do this at WrestleMania? Sheesh, man. So my next takeaway is Corbin and Cruz again. Man, it's like somebody just took the script from last week or a couple of weeks ago and said, you know what? Screw it, man. Let's just do it again. And we got Baron Corbin versus Apollo Crews. Not even an interesting match whatsoever. Only went for like a minute or two. Baron Corbin picks up the victory. He goes 50-50 because he lost to Apollo Crews the last time they faced off. And it's like they don't have any creative ideas whatsoever. Baron Corbin is facing off with Kurt Angle at WrestleMania, and they've done nothing to make him interesting at all. Like, sheesh, man, just get Corbin out of here. So, my next takeaway is that this feud has no juice. Seth Rollins came out, talking about how he wanted to be a champion that inspired, how he wanted to be like guys like Shawn Michaels, like Bret Hart, and like Ric Flair. And he talked about how even John Cena inspired. He said that Brock doesn't inspire. And he talked about how he and the fans would burn Suplex City to the ground. That brought out Paul Heyman. He came down. He said that he didn't know that it would be a handicap match. Seth Rollins and the fans versus Brock. He talked about how Seth had no chance versus Brock, and that he hoped that he would take the loss personally. So I look at Heyman, I look at Seth Rollins. Heyman also talked about how Seth would talk about how he needed thoughts and prayers and all of that stuff. And like, I'm not interested in Paul Heyman. I'm not interested in Seth Rollins. I'm not interested in this feud whatsoever. It has no juice. The apex of the feud was when Seth Rollins won at the Royal Rumble. Nothing good has happened past that. I'm not interested in it whatsoever. Seth Rollins, he tries, but face Seth Rollins is just not on the mic. In the ring, face Seth Rollins is just fine. But Seth Rollins as a face on the mic is just not interesting to me, man. Not whatsoever. And this feud has lost a lot of juice. Actually, I thought it should have been Seth Rollins versus Brock Lesnar last year at WrestleMania, but that's beside the point. It's this year, and Seth Rollins chased Paul Heyman down. Heyman fell at the rampway, and Seth Rollins said that he would burn Suplex City down. So, not interested in this feud whatsoever. Moving on. My next takeaway is that Samoa Joe loses. Kurt Angle versus Samoa Joe. Kurt Angle is on the retirement tour. This was a decent match at best, and I'm being nice. It's just Kurt Angle, you can tell that, look, Father Time has taken his toll on Kurt Angle. Like, Kurt Angle tried to jump up and do the spot where he jumps up and he rips off the straps. And like he barely made it up, and he barely ripped off the straps, and it's like, oh man, but Kurt Angle just doesn't have it anymore. And you know, I was impressed with the German suplexes that he pulled off on Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe's a big boy, and Kurt Angle can still pull that off. But here's the thing. Samoa Joe liked on the coquina clutch, and Kurt Angle countered it into a roll-up for a win. And I'm like, man, wait, hold on. Samoa Joe, the United States champion, is just on a losing streak. If I'm not mistaken, he lost to Rey Mysterio. He lost to Kofi in that gauntlet match. Now he loses to Kurt Angle. I understand that we're on the retirement tour, but you gotta understand that Joe is the United States champion, for goodness sakes. And at least have Samoa Joe in the match with a chair shot or something. Then you can have Kurt Angle hit the Olympic Slam and have Kurt Angle stand tall. That way Samoa Joe doesn't take a loss. But it is what it is at this point. Samoa Joe, look, he needs some type of victory before WrestleMania to get some type of momentum heading into WrestleMania. So my next takeaway is that Triple H is out and he really wants something. And like, okay, we had Triple H come out. He talked about the women, main eventing WrestleMania. He congratulated the women, and he went on to this spot where he was trying to rip a letter out of his jacket, and the letter just wasn't having it. It was just stuck in his jacket. Triple H said, well, I got something buried in my pocket, and he said that he was doing a job for the letter. Okay, that was pretty funny, but he went on. He talked about how the letter was from Batista's lawyer, and that Batista would not be participating in the match at WrestleMania unless he added a stipulation to the match. And Triple H talked about how Batista said that Triple H furthered his career with Evolution, and like Triple H gave it right back to him, talking about how at one point Batista was just Deacon Batista, to which I had forgot all about that. And the stipulation, he eventually got around to the stipulation, said that Batista, wanted Triple H to put his career on the line. And this was something that I did not get whatsoever. So Batista is crying and whining for the match against Triple H, and now he's dictating the terms? Like, okay, I don't get that Triple H is putting his career on the line, to which he did, because Batista wants him to. Like, Batista wants the match. You have all the leverage in the world, Triple H. Like, why put your career on the line? I don't understand it whatsoever. I wasn't a fan of this promo. I thought the Triple H tell me what you really want Spice Girls callback was, it was pretty funny in a old dad type of way. I didn't find it all that greatly funny, but it was what it was. We now have Triple H, we now have Batista, we now have two stipulations, no disqualification, and Triple H's career is on the line. Like, that's a lot of stipulations. Too many stipulations for my taste. One too many stipulations for my taste. So we'll see how it all turns out at WrestleMania. My last takeaway is that Drew dominates. So we had Drew McIntyre versus Dean Ambrose. This match was set up in the backstage interview earlier in the show. So much for the reports of Dean Ambrose not being used anymore in WWE. We had Drew McIntyre versus Dean Ambrose, and it wasn't a very long match, but we had a couple of sick spots. Drew hit Dean Ambrose with a 6 spot, a cane spot. Dean Ambrose flew right into it. Also, Drew slammed Dean Ambrose into a table. That was a 6 spot as well. Got the crowd going. The match would end, interestingly enough, with the Claymore. And it was like, okay, as the match ended, I was thinking, maybe that one should have gone on a little bit longer. But it is what it is. Drew McIntyre picks up the win. His momentum rolls into WrestleMania. I would love to see Drew McIntyre pick up the win against Roman Reigns as well. We'll see how that all turns out. You'd think that they would have had Roman come down at the end to try to help out Dean Ambrose or something, or try to lay out Drew McIntyre for revenge, but I guess not. We would end as Drew McIntyre would stand tall over Dean Ambrose. So those are my takeaways, and I gotta say that this Monday Night Raw was just horrible, man. It is just tough to sit through these Monday Night Raws, man. And like, we're 2 weeks out to WrestleMania, and you're thinking, okay, 2 weeks out to WrestleMania, they're gonna just go all out to try to impress us, and like, they didn't do anything. It just felt like another Monday Night Raw. Hopefully they get it together as we head into the go-home show for WrestleMania on Raw. Let me know your thoughts, whether that is on YouTube, in the comment section, or on Twitter at 2SweetsPod. That's the number 2, SweetPod, or at OMG Corey B. Let me know your thoughts.